Have you ever witnessed a moment so shocking, so full of heartbreak and betrayal that you simply couldn't look away? Picture this: a stormy night, a woman lying on the roadside with blood trickling down her face, raindrops washing away what remains of her pride, and her husband, rich, powerful, and seemingly unstoppable, pressing the gas pedal with another woman by his side. Little did he know, in just a few hours, that very wife he left behind would appear triumphantly on a live TV broadcast, turning the tables in the most astonishing way imaginable. Brace yourselves, this is a story that will leave you breathless. Jonathan Moore had never been one for half measures. He was, by every definition, the kind of man who demanded the best life had to offer money, success, prestige, and most heartbreakingly, the devotion of those around him. As a young boy raised in a modest home in suburban Philadelphia, he'd watched his parents, Martha and Greg, struggle to keep food on the table. He'd vowed that one day he would provide for them and for himself in a way that no one could ever imagine. By the age of 32, Jonathan Moore was a self-made millionaire. He managed to multiply his earnings through a series of savvy tech startup investments. Once he placed his bets on a cybersecurity firm, his entire fate took a meteoric climb. Soon, he became the talk of the financial world, and with that fame came privilege parties and problems he had never anticipated. At one of his venture capital networking soirees, Jonathan met Lily Hargreaves, a bright, kind-hearted law student who attended the event in search of sponsor funds for an environmental justice project. Immediately smitten by her intelligence and unwavering sense of justice, Jonathan found himself swept away by Lily's grounded approach to life. Despite his wealth, Lily did not seem particularly impressed by the flashy displays of opulence. Instead, she was drawn to his ambition, his drive, and the way he could speak so passionately about helping his family escape poverty. Romance blossomed. Within a year, Jonathan proposed in a surprise outing near the Schuylkill River, a place Lily had always loved. The wedding was a lavish, star-studded affair, heavily photographed and gossiped about in high society circles. Yet for all its glitz, it was heartfelt at its core. Lily truly believed in the man Jonathan was trusting, in his sincerity and caring heart. Early in their marriage, everything seemed perfect. They traveled the world, Paris, Dubai, Hong Kong, exploring business opportunities for Jonathan, while Lily wrapped up her final year of law school remotely. There were nights they strolled through new cities, holding hands like they were teenagers in love. If one had told Lily that storms loomed on the horizon, she would have never believed it. She saw only blue skies. But with success came a heightened thirst for more. Jonathan was no longer satisfied with modest ambitions. Making his first million was thrilling, but then it needed to be 10, then 100. He quickly lost himself in the vortex of endless meetings, negotiations, and private conferences. He'd find himself locked in late-night conversations with corporate heads, forging new deals, each bigger than the last. He was rarely home, and when he was, Lily saw his eyes flicker with a constant restlessness, as though a piece of him had been left behind somewhere else. On paper, Lily had every reason to be happy: a well-off husband, a grand mansion nestled near the outskirts of Philadelphia, and personal stability that her peers could only dream of. Yet her smile became more forced as the days wore on. She sensed that Jonathan's hunger for more might drown them both. He was not the compassionate, philanthropy-minded young investor she first fell in love with. Bit by bit, the glitter of wealth was overshadowing the man beneath. Lily tried to speak to Jonathan many times. She would try to catch his attention during quiet dinners or in the brief moments before bedtime, only to be met with curt nods or half-listening stares. "Just a little bit longer, Lil," he would say. "I'm this close to breaking another record quarter." She waited, trusting that his promises would hold true. As the weight of his success pressed upon him, Jonathan began to crave excitement, an adrenaline rush that went beyond the boardroom. This was when Celeste Farnsworth entered the picture. Celeste was a rising entrepreneur, overseeing the marketing division at a fashion conglomerate. She was bold, vivacious, and unafraid to cross boundaries in pursuit of her desires, Jonathan Moore being one of them. Though Lily was still present, Jonathan felt drawn to Celeste's daring nature and her unquenchable thirst for luxury. Their meetings started as business lunches, but soon the lines between professional courtesy and personal desire blurred. By the time Lily suspected anything, Jonathan and Celeste had already embarked on an affair that spanned across penthouse hotel suites and exotic weekend getaways under the guise of important meetings. Thus the stage was set for tragedy. The trust Lily had in Jonathan was about to be betrayed in the most painful way imaginable, and on a rain-lashed evening, it would all come crashing down. Little did Jonathan know that a singular choice that night, his decision to abandon Lily in her direst moment, would prove to be the turning point. Life has a peculiar way of unraveling secrets, and the truth was poised to strike like lightning. The storm, it seemed, was just beginning. Life as a millionaire's wife was not as simple as it looked in glossy tabloids. Yes, Lily had access to the finest of wardrobes, courtesy of Jonathan's endless credit lines. Yes, there was a staff of household help drivers, chefs, and cleaners who handled the brunt of her daily tasks. And certainly Lily's law degree gave her an edge to do something meaningful if she wished. However, Lily found herself in a gilded cage. The staff revered her more as the madam of the house rather than a partner with opinions, and Jonathan's unpredictability left her struggling to find her place. After finishing her law program, Lily was eager to use her newfound education. She had accepted a junior position at a small altruistic law firm that specialized in environmental justice cases. But Jonathan disapproved of her meager salary. "Why bother?" he would say. "The sum you make in a year is smaller than the monthly interest on our investment accounts." Lily would counter that her purpose was never the money. "I want to make a difference," she insisted. Jonathan never truly understood, or perhaps he no longer cared to. Despite their differences, Lily held on to some hope that Jonathan might be proud of her. She was no longer the wide-eyed law student who depended on his fortune. She had her own ambitions, her own identity. Yet ironically, Jonathan's attempts to control her were subtle but consistent. He would shower her with extravagant gifts, hoping to placate her frustration. New sports cars, designer bags, and diamond necklaces would appear on her vanity with notes reading, "For my beautiful wife." But these items felt empty to Lily. No watch or purse could fill the widening gap in their communication. Meanwhile, Jonathan's affair with Celeste Farnsworth grew bolder by the day. Celeste, in many ways, represented the excitement Jonathan yearned for, a woman who thrived in the thrill of nightlife, exclusive clubs, paparazzi-laden events, and secret soirees. She was adept at flattering Jonathan's ego. While Lily was busy championing non-profit causes, Celeste had no qualms about praising Jonathan's every business move, feeding his sense of invincibility. It wasn't that Lily was completely oblivious to Jonathan's slip infidelity. She found signs, receipts for lavish dinners at restaurants she had never visited, lipstick stains on his collars in shades. She never wore the occasional unknown perfume lingering on him when he came home late. But Lily chose not to confront him prematurely. A combination of denial and fear held her back. She thought, if I accuse him, it might break everything we've built. And so she remained silent right up to the breaking point. That breaking point arrived in the form of a charity ball. Jonathan insisted that Lily attend as his wife because it was a high-profile event with influential investors. Celeste was also in attendance because her fashion conglomerate was a major donor. Throughout the evening, Lily could sense an odd tension between them. Jonathan was often out of her sight, slipping into corners for hushed conversations with Celeste. Whenever Lily approached, the pair would break apart, feigning polite chatter. A mixture of suspicion and dread gripped Lily's heart. Later that night, once they returned home, Lily tried to talk to him. The conversation spiraled. Words like, "You're never there for me, and you don't appreciate what I do," flew from Lily's mouth. Jonathan, fueled by annoyance, retaliated, complaining that Lily was being overly dramatic and accusing him without proof. A heated argument escalated, culminating in Jonathan storming out of the room. Lily was left trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks. How had things come to this? The days following the charity ball were tense. Jonathan spent most of his time at the office, or so he claimed. He came home later and later, sometimes refusing to come home at all, giving vague excuses of emergency business trips. Lily wondered if their entire marriage was unraveling. She started to examine the life she was living. The lavish property she once cherished now felt isolating. Her household staff seemed to sense the tension, offering concerned looks but never interfering. One rainy afternoon, Lily received an unexpected invitation from Dr. Caroline Hirsch, a prominent marriage counselor and therapist based in Manhattan. Dr. Hirsch had read some of Lily's environmental law articles and recognized her name from philanthropic circles. Curious, Lily made an appointment to see her. In the therapist's cozy Manhattan office, Lily poured out her fears, her heartbreak, and her suspicion of Jonathan's affair. "A marriage doesn't crumble overnight," Dr. Hirsch said softly, handing Lily a tissue. "And it doesn't rebuild overnight either. You must ask yourself if you truly wish to rebuild, or if the love you had has morphed into something unsalvageable." Lily wanted to fix it, but her faith in Jonathan was shattered. He was no longer the poor boy chasing a dream, but a wealthy mogul chasing endless illusions. Could she reach that lost soul inside him? As Lily rose to leave, Dr. Hirsch gently reminded her, "Sometimes we have to face the pain directly before we can mend what's broken." Days later, Lily found a text message on Jonathan's phone, left charging in their master suite. The message was from Celeste. It was explicit and clearly pointed to their ongoing affair. If Lily needed a final confirmation there, it was in plain sight. Devastation washed over her, but with it came a sense of fierce clarity. She was done pretending everything was fine. If Jonathan wanted out, she would let him go. She deserved better. Little did she know that the unraveling would be far more dramatic than a simple confrontation. Fate was preparing a scene so dire, so twisted, that the entire city and eventually the nation would talk about it. One stormy night would change their lives forever. It was a Tuesday evening, but the sky seemed to echo the fury of 100 storms. Lightning streaked across the horizon, illuminating the dark clouds rolling in over Philadelphia. News stations warned of flash floods, urging people to stay indoors if possible. The thunder was relentless, shaking window panes and rattling nerves. That night, Lily had been at her law firm, late busy drafting an amicus brief for an upcoming environmental lawsuit. Rain battered the rooftop, drowning out the hum of the building's HVAC system. By the time she was done, it was well past 8. She packed up her documents, sighed heavily, and decided to drive home through the downpour. She tried calling Jonathan, hoping he might be nearby, or at least concerned about her. Her calls went straight to voicemail. Feeling a pang of worry, Lily focused on the road. She maneuvered her sleek sedan carefully through the storm. Visibility was terrible, water pooling across intersections. Eventually, she noticed a silver sports car, a Koenigsegg Gemera, one of Jonathan's latest acquisitions, zooming recklessly through the soaked streets ahead of her. A flash of recognition jolted Lily's senses. That was Jonathan. What was he doing out here, in this weather, at this hour, and in that particular car? She decided to follow at a safe distance, not entirely certain what she might discover. She tried calling him again, but still no answer. The sports car stopped at a red light, and Lily, a few vehicles behind, did the same. Through the rainfall, she discerned a silhouette in the passenger seat next to Jonathan. Her heart hammered. A female silhouette with flowing hair. She knew it had to be Celeste. Gripping the steering wheel, Lily breathed in and out, adrenaline shooting through her veins. She couldn't let this moment slip away. Whatever remnants of denial she had left dissolved in the pouring rain. When the light turned green, Jonathan's car roared forward, speeding dangerously through the drenched roads. Lily accelerated, determined not to lose them. She weaved between the slower-moving cars, ignoring the honks and curses from other drivers. With every mile, her frustration grew. "I have to confront him," she thought. "This has gone on far too long." Suddenly, in a moment of poor visibility, Lily's car swerved to avoid a large puddle and skidded across the slick pavement. She lost control. The sedan spun once-twice and crashed into a guardrail with a sickening crunch of metal. The airbags deployed, slamming into Lily's chest and face. Her ears rang, her vision blurred. Rainwater seeped in through the shattered windows, mixing with the scent of gasoline and burnt rubber. Shock took over. Lily hardly registered the pain from the gash on her forehead. She fumbled for her seatbelt, unbuckling it with trembling fingers. Head pounding, Lily managed to open the driver's door, stumbling out into the deluge. Blood trickled down her temple, and the wind whipped her hair against her eyes, stinging her face. To her astonishment, Jonathan's sports car had pulled over a short distance away. Its hazard lights flashed in the driving rain. Relief flickered within Lily. For a moment, she believed Jonathan had seen her lose control and had stopped to help. Through the torrential downpour, she could just make out his tall figure stepping out of the vehicle. "Jonathan!" Lily called, her voice feeble and shaking from shock. She raised a hand, beckoning him to come closer, hoping for the husband. She used to know the man who cared about her, who would rush to her side and cradle her in his arms. He did approach, but what Lily saw on his face was not concern. It was panic, frustration, and something else, perhaps guilt. Behind him, Celeste stood by the open passenger door, shouting something inaudible over the roar of wind and rain. "Lily, oh God," Jonathan muttered, eyes darting around. He looked at her injuries, the battered sedan behind her, and then back at Celeste. Lily was struggling to keep upright, the cut on her forehead throbbing. This was the moment of truth. She wanted him to speak, to say anything that would let her know he still cared. But Jonathan hesitated. His $1 million sports car was blocking traffic. Cars beeped angrily. Drivers were rolling down windows, shouting at them to move. Celeste glanced between Lily and Jonathan, hands on her hips. Lily could see the tension swirling in Jonathan's eyes. The man who once vowed to love her in sickness and in health was now torn between basic decency and the mistress urging him to leave. "Jonathan," Lily whispered, taking a step closer, her knees threatening to buckle. "Help me, please." There was a beat of silence, thunder roaring overhead like a cosmic drum roll. Jonathan cringed, stepping back. With a haunted look, he turned to Celeste. The next few seconds felt like slow motion to Lily. She watched as Jonathan opened the driver's door of his sports car. Without a word, he climbed in. Celeste took her seat, slammed the door shut, and the car sped off into the tempestuous night. Lily collapsed onto the soaked road, tears mingling with rainwater, a metallic taste of blood on her lips. She felt as if a blade had cut through her heart. The man she had devoted her life to, the man she believed she could still save, had just abandoned her while she was bleeding helpless in the middle of a storm. The heartbreak was as deafening as the thunder around her. In that instant, Lily realized she had reached a point of no return. Everything about her marriage, her trust, and her hope had shattered. Yet destiny had not abandoned her. The darkest nights have a way of revealing hidden stars, and for Lily, rescue was on its way even if it wouldn't come from Jonathan. The Koenigsegg's taillights disappeared around a bend, leaving Lily alone on the deserted, rain-lashed road. Her consciousness flickered as she fought to stay awake, the throbbing in her head intensifying. She could feel warm blood running down her cheek and onto her collar. The storm roared, lightning cutting across the sky like jagged scars. Though the world felt cruel and empty at that moment, fate had a different plan. A red pickup truck approached, its headlights shining through the curtain of rain. It slowed near the wreck hazard lights, illuminating the scene. A man in his 40s, wearing a waterproof jacket and a concerned expression, stepped out. "Ma'am, are you okay?" he shouted, voice nearly swallowed by thunder. His name was Thomas Grayson, an old acquaintance of Jonathan's father. Lily recognized him vaguely. They had met years ago at a family gathering. She vaguely remembered him as someone who used to manage a small chain of hardware stores. But in this moment, his presence felt almost divinely sent. She tried to form words, but managed only a weak moan. Thomas rushed forward gently, placing an arm around her shoulder. He quickly assessed her injuries. "We need to get you to a hospital. Lean on me." Lily, exhausted and in shock, complied. Thomas helped her into his truck, laying towels across the seat to protect it from her blood and the rain-soaked clothes. Then carefully, he wrapped a clean cloth around the gash on her forehead to stem the bleeding. His voice was steady, despite the chaos of thunder and lightning. "Hang on, Lily. I'm taking you to the nearest ER." The ride to the hospital was a blur. Lily drifted in and out of consciousness, fragments of memory flashing before her eyes. Her wedding day, the first time Jonathan said, "I love you," the bright grin he used to have whenever she entered a room. Now those moments felt like a cruel joke. How had everything fallen apart so viciously? Thomas spoke to paramedics on the phone, giving them updates on Lily's condition. He explained the collision he had witnessed and how he found Lily alone. He left out the part about seeing a Koenigsegg sports car speeding away, but the anger in his clenched jaw was evident. He had recognized Jonathan behind the wheel, but that confrontation would come later. At the hospital, nurses quickly wheeled Lily into the emergency room. Doctors conducted scans, administered stitches to close the gash, and checked for internal injuries. Lily had a minor concussion, bruised ribs, and whiplash from the crash, but nothing life-threatening. The emotional wounds, however, cut far deeper. She answered the staff's questions mechanically, acknowledging her name, date of birth, and symptoms, but avoiding all discussion of how the accident had occurred. Thomas remained by Lily's side, contacting the hospital administrators and ensuring she was treated promptly. Fortunately, Lily's insurance and personal resources guaranteed first-rate medical attention. As she lay in the hospital bed, hooked to IV fluids and monitors, Lily tried to keep her composure. The image of Jonathan leaving her in the rain replayed in her mind, an endless loop of betrayal. Hours passed, the storm outside, subsiding to a steady drizzle. Thomas quietly watched over Lily, stepping outside occasionally to make calls. During one such absence, Lily scrolled through her phone. She couldn't help but notice multiple missed calls and texts from the staff at her mansion, worried messages about her whereabouts. There was nothing from Jonathan. Her heart ached. Close to midnight, Lily's phone rang. She tensed, hoping it was Jonathan, but the screen showed unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" A concerned female voice responded. "Is this Lily Moore? This is Renee Vasquez from Channel 8 News. We received an anonymous tip about a serious accident involving you and the possibility of your husband Jonathan Moore being present at the scene. We wanted to verify." Lily hung up immediately. She couldn't handle this. The press smelled blood, and they wanted a sensational story. She had no intention of sharing what happened. She was too exhausted, too hurt. She put the phone on silent and stared at the ceiling, letting tears slip down her cheeks. Moments later, Thomas entered carrying a fresh cup of coffee. "The doctor says you'll be okay to go home by tomorrow morning, as long as someone can look after you," he said, gently setting the coffee on a table. "Lily, I don't want to pry, but were you chasing Jonathan? I recognize that car. I know you're not in a state to talk, but if there's anything I can do—" Lily swallowed, nodding. "Jonathan was with someone else," she admitted, eyes flicking away. "I'm so humiliated." Thomas sighed. "I'm sorry. You deserve better than that, Lily. Do you have someone else you can reach out to, family, close friends?" I'm not sure," Lily murmured. While she had friends at the law firm, she never confided her marital troubles to them. Her parents lived in another state, mostly retired. She felt alone in a way she had never felt before. "Thank you for helping me, Thomas." Thomas pressed his lips together, glancing at the monitors. "I've known your father-in-law, Greg Moore, for years. He was a decent man. Used to come to me for hardware store advice when he was improving that old house of theirs in Philly. I don't know what Jonathan's become, but I can say this: you need to focus on your own well-being first. Everything else can come later." Lily nodded, tears renewing. She felt gratitude for Thomas's kindness, a stark contrast to Jonathan's abandonment. If there was any silver lining, it was the reminder that good people still existed. Maybe this horrifying ordeal was the push Lily needed to step out of the shadows and into her own light, even if it meant confronting a future without Jonathan. By the time dawn arrived, Lily had stabilized. The sky was gray, the rain reduced to a gentle patter on the hospital windows. She gazed outside, wrestling with a torrent of emotions. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing: her life would never be the same again. And deep in her heart, a new defiant spark took root. She would not remain a victim of Jonathan's betrayal. She would reclaim her dignity, find her voice, and possibly, just possibly, discover that the world had more to offer than a loveless, one-sided marriage. Little did she know, life had an unimaginable twist waiting just around the corner, one that would catapult her into a spotlight far brighter than any she had ever experienced. Upon release from the hospital, Lily made a deliberate choice. Instead of returning to the cold emptiness of the mansion she shared with Jonathan, she decided to check into a modest hotel under her maiden name, Lily Hargreaves. She told no one but Thomas Grayson. She needed time to heal, to think, and above all, to avoid the paparazzi and inquiring news outlets that had begun sniffing around. To Lily's surprise, within 24 hours of her accident, social media platforms were abuzz with rumors of Jonathan Moore's involvement in a car accident. Some claimed he'd heroically tried to save a crash victim. Others alleged he was the one who fled the scene with a mysterious woman. The truth, as Lily knew too well, was ugly, but she wasn't ready to expose it publicly yet. She was still grappling with her own shame and heartbreak. Meanwhile, Jonathan was conspicuously silent. No phone calls, no texts, no attempts to locate her, at least none that she was aware of. It seemed he wanted to distance himself from the scandal quickly, or perhaps he assumed Lily was in no condition to talk. If he believed she'd remain silent forever, he was sorely mistaken. On her second night in the hotel, Lily's phone buzzed with a call from Dr. Caroline Hirsch, the marriage therapist she had visited in Manhattan. Concern laced the therapist's voice. She had seen the flurry of speculation in tabloids about the accident. "Are you safe?" Dr. Hirsch asked gently. "Yes," Lily replied softly. "Not at the mansion. I'm figuring things out." Dr. Hirsch offered her continued support and suggested a referral to a trauma counselor. The mention of therapy initially made Lily uneasy. She wasn't sure she wanted to relive the haunting memory of Jonathan driving away as she bled in the rain. But she also realized that burying her pain would only prolong her suffering. "I'll think about it," she said. Over the following days, Lily's physical wounds began to heal. The stitches above her eyebrow no longer stung as badly, and her dizziness subsided. Emotionally, however, she remained fragile. She couldn't shake off the betrayal or the deep-seated fear that she was now truly alone. Yet unbeknownst to her, a new opportunity was brewing, one that would test her courage and unravel hidden strengths. An old colleague of Lily's from law school, Monica Liang, reached out. She was now a junior producer at the local news station WPLV. She had caught wind of Lily's situation and suspected there was more to the story than the rumor mill was conveying. "I don't want to push you," Monica said over the phone. "But if you ever feel ready to speak up, our station would give you a platform to tell your side. No sensationalizing, no paparazzi nonsense, just an honest interview." Lily's first instinct was to decline. The idea of revealing her personal trauma on live TV was terrifying. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized the power of truth. She was tired of Jonathan controlling the narrative, tired of living in shame. Perhaps speaking out could be her path to reclaiming her voice. Still, she hesitated. She wanted closure first, a chance to confront Jonathan face to face and decide where they stood. Yet ironically, Jonathan was making it easier for her. Day after day, he remained unresponsive, likely holed up with Celeste, or burying himself in damage control with his PR team. Finally, Lily decided to meet with Monica privately. She slipped into WPLV's modest headquarters, wearing sunglasses and a scarf, hoping to avoid recognition. Monica greeted her warmly, guiding her to a quiet conference room. They spoke for hours. Monica was careful, asking Lily about her marriage, her law career, her philanthropic goals. Lily revealed some of the pain she'd been through, the marriage drifting apart, Jonathan's affair, the night of the accident. But Lily did not want to appear vindictive or petty. "I'm not out for revenge," she insisted. "I just want to speak the truth. Maybe it will help others who feel trapped in toxic relationships and have lost their sense of self." Monica listened intently. "If you're ready to go live, we can do a one-on-one interview. It could air as early as this week. But Lily, this is a big deal. Once you go public, there's no going back." Lily felt a ripple of anxiety and excitement. She pictured the moment Jonathan had left her in the storm. the look in his eyes that spoke volumes of his choice, his mistress over his wife's life. As horrifying as it was, she sensed that sharing her story might set her free. She would no longer cling to illusions of what their marriage was supposed to be. She was forging a new identity, and that identity demanded honesty. "I'll do it," Lily said finally. Her voice, though trembling, carried a determination she hadn't felt in a long time. In the days leading up to the interview, Lily braced herself. She worked with Monica to structure the conversation, focusing not only on the betrayal, but on how she was determined to move forward. She wanted to discuss the complexities of wealth and marriage, how easy it was to lose oneself amid the glitter, and how to regain one's self-worth when left with nothing but heartbreak. Little did Lily know, Jonathan Moore, still blissfully ignorant of her plans, would be sitting in his penthouse suite with Celeste on the very night of that broadcast, his eyes glued to the screen, mouth agape, as Lily stepped into the spotlight he once believed was solely his domain. And in that moment, Jonathan would learn a lesson. No wealth could shield him from the power of a woman scorned, reborn, and fearless in her truth. The studio lights shone bright and relentless, reflecting off Lily's carefully applied concealer that disguised the healing stitches on her forehead. She sat in a cushioned armchair across from Monica Liang, the set dressed in soft blues and muted grays to convey a sense of calm. Yet beneath the professional veneer, a tension buzzed in the air. Everybody present sensed that what Lily was about to share could become a media sensation. Behind the cameras, staff bustled in hushed voices. Monica handed Lily a glass of water. "You still sure about this?" she asked gently, searching Lily's eyes for doubt. For a heartbeat, Lily felt a tremor of nerves. This was about to become real. There would be no turning back. She recalled the image of Jonathan driving away, rain soaking her clothes, blood seeping into her eyes. That memory alone renewed her resolve. "I'm ready," Lily said, determined. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The camera's red light blinked on. Monica, poised and articulate, opened with a brief introduction to Lily's background, her law degree, her philanthropic aspirations, and her recent involvement in environmental justice. The audience, curious yet unsuspecting, watched from their living rooms, offices, and smartphones. Meanwhile, across town, Jonathan Moore and Celeste Farnsworth lounged in a high-rise penthouse. Jonathan had poured himself a top-shelf whiskey, flipping through channels absent-mindedly. A swirl of anxiety was overshadowed by the arrogance that had guided his life. He had grown used to controlling the narrative, with legal teams and PR strategists. If the news was talking about the accident, he assumed his spin would prevail. He nearly dropped his glass when the screen showed Lily's face, pale but resolute. Beneath her image, the banner read, "Exclusive, Lily Moore speaks out." "What the hell is this?" Jonathan muttered, leaning forward. Celeste tensed beside him. The memory of the accident flickered in their minds. On screen, Monica said, "Lily, thank you for being here with us. Many of our viewers are aware that there's been rampant speculation regarding a serious car accident. Tonight, we'd like to hear your side of the story." Lily's heart thumped, but her voice emerged calm. "Thank you for having me, Monica. I've stayed silent about my private life for years, but recent events have left me with no choice. I believe it's time to tell the truth." As Lily spoke, tears stung the corners of her eyes, but she remained steady. She recounted how she had met Jonathan in a philanthropic setting, their love story that once burned bright, and then the slow corrosion of trust as his appetite for success overshadowed their marriage. She spoke carefully, never resorting to slander, but neither sugarcoating the betrayal. My marriage to Jonathan was not what the tabloids portrayed, Lily explained. It was filled with passion initially, but as fortunes rose, so did the distance between us. There were late nights, suspicious receipts, and eventually I discovered he was with someone else. The night of the accident, she paused, her eyes glistening. I'd followed him because I suspected he was with another woman. When my car lost control, I was left bleeding in the rain, and he chose to drive away. The studio fell silent, a collective hush, broken only by the faint hum of equipment. Monica reached over, placing a supportive hand on Lily's. That must have been devastating. Lily's gaze dropped for a moment, then lifted fierce with conviction. Yes, but it was also a moment of clarity. I realized that I could no longer remain silent or dependent on someone who'd abandoned me in such a dire situation. I deserve better, and I'm here to say that anyone living in fear or in the shadows of someone else's success deserves better too. Back in the penthouse, Jonathan sprang to his feet. "She's lying," he hissed, though a glimmer of shame lit his eyes. Celeste's face blanched. She knew Lily wasn't lying because Celeste had been there urging Jonathan to flee. Monica continued her line of questioning, asking Lily about her future plans. "I've hired an attorney," Lily said, a small tremble betraying her nerves. "I'm filing for divorce. I want to focus on my career, on rebuilding my life, and on supporting causes that truly matter to me." Jonathan's mind spun. The word divorce made his stomach churn. What would this do to his public image, his net worth, his carefully curated brand? He stomped around the living room, brandishing his phone. "I need to call my lawyer," he mumbled, ignoring Celeste's attempts to calm him. At the WPLV studio, Lily's interview neared its close. Monica offered a gentle wrap-up, commending Lily for her bravery and encouraging viewers to take heart from her story. Lily managed a brave smile. "I hope someone out there hears this and feels less alone," she said. "We all deserve respect, dignity, and compassion. And if we aren't getting it, we have the right to break free." The camera zoomed in one last time on Lily's determined face before transitioning to a commercial break. Once the red light blinked off, Lily exhaled. In that moment, she felt a strange mix of grief and empowerment. She had peeled back the layers of a deeply personal betrayal for the world to see. She wasn't naive enough to believe everything would magically improve overnight. There would be backlash, legal wrangling, and media frenzy. But she had done it. She had found her voice. Back in the penthouse, Jonathan sank onto the couch, whiskey glass trembling in his hand. He closed his eyes, replaying Lily's words. "I was left bleeding in the rain." He chose to drive away. "You need to handle this," Celeste demanded. But Jonathan barely heard her. A swirl of regret, anger, and confusion clouded his mind. He couldn't fathom how quickly events had spiraled out of his control. The city, no, the entire nation, would see him as a cold-hearted man who abandoned his injured wife. His phone exploded with calls from associates, lawyers, and PR specialists, but he felt paralyzed. At that moment, the cracks in Jonathan's carefully built empire began to surface. Lily's voice was powerful, and the truth she spoke had a ring of authenticity that no amount of money or spin could fully silence. In chasing wealth and pleasure, Jonathan had underestimated the cost of losing the one person who had loved him unconditionally. But Lily, far from a helpless victim, was now forging her path forward, and the city watched her with admiration and curiosity, wondering what she would do next and whether Jonathan Moore would survive the storm he had unleashed. The aftermath of Lily's interview was swift and fierce. Within hours, social media platforms lit up with hashtags like "Stand with Lily" and "Rain Betrayal" trending nationwide. Anonymous internet users dissected every angle of the story, scouring old tabloids for clues, launching discussions about wealth, power dynamics, and the illusions of a perfect marriage. People felt outraged, sympathetic, or simply voyeuristic, gawking at the real-life soap opera unfolding before them. Jonathan's PR team scrambled to issue statements. They attempted to pivot the narrative, claiming miscommunication and unforeseen circumstances. But the public wasn't easily fooled. Paparazzi hounded Jonathan's mansion, capturing images of him and Celeste scurrying away in tinted SUVs. A barrage of questions shouted their way. Is it true? Did you leave Lily in the rain? Do you have any remorse? Jonathan refused to answer, face tight with anger. Meanwhile, Lily tried to keep a low profile, but it was impossible. Reporters camped outside the law firm where she worked, and the hotel staff whisked her through side entrances to avoid paparazzi. She began receiving a flood of supportive messages from strangers, women and men, who admired her courage in exposing an emotionally abusive relationship. Some had stories of their own, describing betrayals and heartbreak, fueling Lily's resolve to keep speaking the truth. 3 days after the interview, Lily's divorce attorney, a no-nonsense woman named Rebecca Hallstrom, arranged a meeting to discuss next steps. With measured calm, Rebecca explained potential settlement scenarios and how Jonathan's legal team might respond. He's going to fight, Rebecca warned. There's a lot at stake: money, reputation, future business deals. He'll try to undermine your credibility, maybe even paint you as a gold digger or claim you're exaggerating the accident. Lily's heart sank at the thought, but she swallowed hard. She refused to let fear silence her again. I understand, she said quietly, but I'm not backing down. That same afternoon, Lily received an unexpected text from Thomas Grayson. Jonathan wants to speak with you. He's calmer now, but be cautious. Lily hesitated, recalling the last time she'd seen Jonathan's face twisted with indecision as he abandoned her on the roadside. Still, a small part of her yearned for closure, some final conversation that would let her move on. With her attorney's approval, Lily agreed to meet in a neutral location, Thomas's office, an unpretentious building away from the paparazzi hotspots. When the day arrived, Lily's stomach churned with anxiety. She wore a simple gray blazer over a blouse, her hair pulled back in a low ponytail. The faint scar above her eyebrow was still visible, despite makeup. She felt the weight of memory pressing on her as she stepped into the office. Jonathan arrived soon after, wearing a tailored suit. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. Celeste was not with him. The tension in the small conference room was palpable. Lily noticed how Jonathan avoided her gaze. Finally, he cleared his throat. Lily, his voice faltered. I didn't intend for any of this to happen. Didn't you? Lily asked, her tone measured. She suppressed the swirl of emotions in her chest: anger, sorrow, pity. You made a choice that night, Jonathan. One I can't forget. He blinked rapidly, jaw tense. You have no idea the stress I was under. I panicked. I made a mistake. Lily released a bitter laugh. A mistake is forgetting to pick up the dry cleaning. Leaving your wife bleeding in the rain and speeding away with your mistress is more than a mistake. Jonathan rubbed his temples. He glanced at Thomas, who was watching from the sidelines, arms folded. Look, we were at each other's throats for months. Maybe I strayed, but you can't just go on TV and destroy me like that. Lily bristled. Destroy you? You did that all by yourself. I simply spoke the truth. You think this is about vengeance? It's about not letting you spin a story that paints me as invisible or lying or worthless. I won't let you define me anymore." Silence stretched. Jonathan's gaze flicked to Lily's stitched forehead. A flash of guilt crossed his features. I'm sorry you were hurt," he said quietly, and for a moment it sounded sincere. "I've lost control of everything. The board members, the shareholders, they're questioning my leadership. My personal life is plastered across headlines." Lily felt the sting of tears she refused to shed. "If you're looking for me to retract my statements, I won't do it. I meant every word. And if that costs you some business deals, so be it." She turned to Thomas. "Are we done here?" Her voice trembled slightly, a reflection of the raw pain still lodged in her heart. Jonathan lunged for her arm gently but urgently. "Wait," he said, voice cracking. "What if we can fix this? I can end things with Celeste. We can spin this story or go to therapy. Anything you want. Just help me salvage my reputation." Lily stared at him, disbelief etched on her face. "You're not even asking how I feel, or if we can heal as a couple. You just want your public image back. That's all I ever was to you in the end, wasn't it? A piece of your perfect puzzle. You're asking me to lie, to bury the truth, to stay with a man who left me to bleed in the rain. I won't do that." She pulled away from his grasp. Jonathan's eyes clouded with defeat. For an instant, Lily almost felt pity. This was the man she had once adored, the man who promised to protect her. Now, he stood before her, broken by his own greed and betrayal. Rebecca Holstrom's words echoed in Lily's mind. He'll try anything to limit the fallout. She realized he was even willing to feign remorse or love if it meant controlling the narrative. Her decision was clear. "I'm filing for divorce. No matter what you say, it's over." Jonathan raked a hand through his hair. "You'll regret this," he whispered, his voice both desperate and bitter. "You're throwing away everything we built." Lily raised her chin. "Everything we built was already destroyed the moment you chose to walk away from me in that storm. Now, I'm building something new without you." She turned and exited, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Thomas stepped forward to escort her out, leaving Jonathan alone in the conference room. In that tense silence, Jonathan Moore felt the full weight of his decisions. No amount of money or power could undo the damage he had wrought. Outside, Lily inhaled the crisp air, her heart pounding. She had braved a confrontation she once dreaded. Now, she felt both drained and oddly liberated. This was the price of freedom, letting go of a life built on illusions, stepping into a future where her self-worth was not defined by a man's wealth or validation. Her phone buzzed with a text from Monica Liang. "Your interview is going national. Other networks want a follow-up. Let me know if you're up for it." Lily allowed herself a small smile. She wasn't done telling her story. And perhaps by telling it, she could help others find the courage to break free from the storms in their own lives. For days, Lily fielded countless interview requests, offers of book deals, even inquiries from documentary filmmakers wanting to delve into the saga of a millionaire's wife betrayed. Yet she navigated them with caution. She was no longer the naive woman who believed wholeheartedly in a perfect fairy tale ending. She was, however, determined to use her voice for positive change. Her attorney, Rebecca Holstrom, began negotiations with Jonathan's legal team. The tabloids called it a tug-of-war divorce, sensationalizing every rumor. Lily's phone buzzed incessantly, but she ignored the noise. She refused to be pulled into a mudslinging match. Instead, she focused on her law career and philanthropic initiatives. If any good could come from her painful experience, it would be channeling her story into advocacy. One morning, Lily found herself sitting in Dr. Caroline Hirsch's Manhattan office once again. This time, though, She didn't come seeking marriage counseling. She came to talk about her future. The cozy space, lined with books and subdued lighting, felt like a sanctuary compared to the media storm raging outside. "How are you holding up?" Dr. Hirsch asked, studying Lily with a caring gaze. Lily exhaled, remembering the night that haunted her dreams. "Better," she admitted, "at least physically. The cut's healing. Emotionally. I'm learning that healing is a process." Dr. Hirsch nodded. "Healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel strong, other days you might feel the old pain. It's normal, especially after such trauma. But from what I see, you're reclaiming your autonomy." Lily smiled faintly. "Yes, I'm planning to launch a foundation that supports individuals, particularly women, who face economic or emotional dependence in relationships. Maybe help fund their legal battles, provide counseling or resources to restart their lives. It feels right, using my platform for something bigger than myself." Her eyes drifted to the windows where sunlight spilled in. The gloom of that stormy night felt distant now. "I know it won't be easy, but if my story could help even one person escape a dark situation, it's worth it." Dr. Hirsch offered an encouraging nod. "I think that's wonderful. You're turning personal tragedy into collective empowerment. Just be sure to keep your own self-care a priority." In the following weeks, Lily indeed channeled her newfound freedom into activism. She collaborated with non-profits, spoke at charity galas, and penned thoughtful op-eds in major newspapers, focusing on the intersection of wealth relationships and vulnerability. Publications lauded her for speaking so candidly, and a wave of support came from unexpected corners. Celebrities tweeted praise. Philanthropic bodies sought her partnership. She was forging an identity entirely separate from Jonathan Moore's shadow. As for Jonathan, the divorce proceedings made headlines. Unable to quell the negative publicity, he issued a public apology, an attempt at image repair. "I regret the events that transpired," read his official statement. "I will strive to learn from my mistakes." But insiders reported that Jonathan was reeling. Business partners distanced themselves. A deal he had been brokering with an international conglomerate collapsed. Investors became wary of the drama swirling around him. Celeste, too, apparently found the relentless press attention less than glamorous. Rumors indicated a quiet end to their affair. Lily watched it all from a place of deliberate detachment. She hadn't wanted revenge, only truth. Yet consequences naturally followed. As negotiations advanced, Jonathan offered a substantial settlement to avoid further public spectacle. Lily accepted under terms that included her retaining her share of assets plus additional funds she planned to channel into her philanthropic work. It was a far cry from the love they once shared, but it felt like justice had been served in some small measure. On a brisk autumn morning, months after that fateful storm, Lily stood in front of a modest crowd gathered for the launch of the Storm's Grace Foundation, her new non-profit. Cameras flashed, and local reporters took notes. Lily wore a simple ivory dress, the scar on her forehead hidden beneath soft bangs. Yet she was radiant with resolve. She stepped up to the podium, heart pounding. "Thank you for being here," she began, voice carrying through the crisp air. "Storm's Grace Foundation is named for what I learned in my darkest moment. Storms can destroy, but they can also cleanse. They can wash away illusions, leaving behind a chance to rebuild something stronger, truer. When I was left bleeding in the rain, I felt powerless. But that storm became my turning point, forcing me to realize I could no longer remain silent or bound by fear. If you find yourself in such a storm, please know there is always grace on the other side, and we are here to help." Applause erupted, and Lily spotted familiar faces in the crowd: Thomas Grayson, who gave her a thumbs up, Monica Liang, covering the event for WPLV, Dr. Caroline Hirsch, smiling with pride. Even her old classmates, who once admired her lucky marriage, now stood with genuine admiration for her courage. Lily felt a surge of gratitude. The journey had been harrowing, but it led her here, an advocate, a survivor, a voice of hope. There would still be moments of sadness, nights when memories of Jonathan's betrayal returned to haunt her. She might never fully understand why he chose to forsake love for lust and power. But the storm taught her that heartbreak need not define her story. It could become the catalyst for profound growth and transformation. And so, on that day, with the sun shining overhead, Lily took a deep breath. She had stepped into her own light, leaving behind the illusions of a gilded cage for the genuine promise of freedom. She was now Lily Hargreaves, lawyer, philanthropist, and living proof that even the deepest wounds could heal given time, courage, and the grace found in a storm. In a world where wealth, power, and passion collide, Lily's journey stands as a compelling reminder that truth and self-worth are priceless. She found the courage to confront betrayal, endure public scrutiny, and ultimately rediscover who she was beneath all the glitz. Her inspiring transformation shows us that even the darkest nights can illuminate our most profound strengths. If this story resonated with you, please give this video a like. It helps more people discover Lily's incredible message. Share this video with anyone who might need a spark of hope or a push to break free from their own storm. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories and empowering real-life journeys. Your support means the world to us. Together, let's remind everyone out there, we deserve nothing less than love, respect, and the freedom to shape our own destiny.